All right, everybody, welcome back. I have 3:40 Eastern here on my clock, so we'll go ahead and get started with our next panel. Next up, we have Palace Community in Focus. This panel will feature library practitioners discussing how they have found success using the Palace Project app in their communities. You'll hear about how they've maximized usage of the statewide shared collections, creative ways they've promoted Palace, and challenges they've faced while introducing Palace and other e-reading apps to their communities. Our panelists today are Melanie Duncan, Head of Collections and Acquisitions for Middle Georgia Regional Library, Lisa McKinney, Library Director at Hall County Library System, Brian Walls, Reference Librarian at Henry Carter Hall Library, and the panel will be moderated by Jill Scarson, the Partner Success Leader for EBCE here at Lyrasis. All right, and with that, I'll go ahead and stop sharing and hand it over to Jill.
Thanks, Tara. I'm so excited today to be joined by some of our partner libraries to discuss the impact of Palace and their statewide shared collections that has had on their communities. For the next 40 minutes or so, we'll go through a short series of questions and should have some time for audience questions at the end. For the sake of the panel sanity and mine, we kind of prearranged that they'll answer each question round robin style, starting with Brian and ending with Melanie before we move on to the next question. So to kick things off, Brian, can you tell us a little bit about your library community and your role in the library?
Yeah, sure thing, Jill. So I was hired at the Henry Carter Hall Library about 6 months ago. Um, this is actually my first experience ever working with Palace, and for the most part, it's been very straightforward. Um, Clinton, our patron base is primarily, children, families, adults over 50. We're also a coastal town, which means we kind of have fluctuating usage depending on the time of year. A lot of times during the winter, we get a lot of people that go down south where it's warmer, so we lose some of our patronage during the colder seasons. Um, we're also a standalone library, which means that we are not part of a consortia. Many of the towns that surround us belong to the Lion Library System, but we are not, which means that our access to ebooks and audiobooks is generally much more limited than a lot of libraries in Connecticut.
Thanks, Ryan. How about you, Lisa?
Hello, my name is Lisa McKinney, and I'm the director at the Hall County Library. We are a suburb of Atlanta. We have about 215,000 people, many of whom are commuters, which becomes very important when we start talking about audiobooks. I have been at Hall County for 21 years, and I have been in Georgia libraries for 30 years. So I have had the privilege of witnessing how some of the consortiums that Georgia has made available through our state library have developed during that time, and it has been pretty exciting to watch.
Thanks, Lisa. Melanie, that's a you.
Hi, I'm Melanie Duncan, Head of Collections for Middle Georgia Regional. I'm also part of the Georgia Pine system, like Lisa is. We're located literally in the center of the state. Like Lisa also, I've been with the system, Middle Georgia, for about 20 some years. I've been in Georgia libraries for over 30. I've seen the growth also because you went from your single library system or single library having the audios to our Georgia download destination, which shares audio and ebooks statewide. We are a library system that involves 6 counties and 17 branches at the moment. We're getting ready to open another, and we have some renovations planned. So we have a lot of commuters just in the central Georgia area going back and forth between the cities. And so audiobooks are very popular here too.
Thanks. And it's really great to kind of see that we have these different types of libraries that are interacting with Palace, that are utilizing their statewide shared collections, as well as integrating Palace. And I know that you kind of touched on this a little bit, Brian, when you were talking about Clinton and Henry Carter Hull, but how has access to a statewide shared collection like EGO impacted your library community?
So honestly, in the most straightforward way, it's given us the ability to provide access to ebooks and audiobooks in a way that we were previously unable to. Like I said, we are a standalone library. A lot of libraries in Connecticut have linked systems where they're able to share their collection of ebooks and audiobooks. But for us, that would mean, being a standalone library, having to purchase individual books in e-resources that would only be available through us. I've worked in other libraries that have, been decidedly standalone who have purchased ebooks and audiobooks, but it's really made me aware of how expensive and limiting it can be just being a library by yourself, making this collection and just having to spend a lot of resources and time managing it and all that kind of thing. Um, yeah, I just really feel that having access to Palace allows us to provide necessary materials to our patrons without having to overextend ourselves. And that's just been really, really helpful.
Now, Lisa, I know that Palace is new in Georgia, but statewide shared collections may not be. Can you talk a little bit about how eRead Georgia and eRead Kids have impacted your library community?
Sure, we are very lucky to have several. Palace is the most recent, and we're all very, very excited about it. eRead Kids is a ton of literature that's available through Galileo, which is our virtual library. They are all, and the first really big shared resource that we had was Galileo. eRead Kids has tons of really comfortable material that is for very young ages. There's not going to be anything that parents really need to worry about because we all know that's a hot topic right now. But this is just super easy, super low level, available to everybody. It is a wonderful, wonderful product that we have. And we also have GAD, which is a Georgia audio destination for downloads, which has been around for quite some time. And it is an audiobook platform where we can share different audiobooks. And of course, that's the hot thing. I'm a commuter community. Audiobooks are 2 to 1 over ebooks popular in my library, literally 2 to 1. So that's been a huge blessing for us to have that available.
I have to remember to hit the unmute button. For us, it's been the same. We have multiple sources. The benefit for us with joining Palace, before our eRead Kids really didn't get a lot of circulation. And now that we've got people going into Palace looking for items, they can find a title. It might come from eRead Kids. It might have actually been owned on Georgia Download Destination. The ProQuest ebooks, it just makes it so much easier for people in our community to find the audios and ebooks directly on Palace, in addition to some of the ones that are only available on Palace. Like, we can't, keep the Dungeon Crawler Carl audiobooks in stock since they're so popular.
I'm just going to make a nice quick plug for Dungeon Crawler Carl. If you haven't listened to this audiobook, it is an Audible exclusive that we were able to negotiate thanks to our relationship with Audible Studios and Micah May and our good friends with Audible to make that available on Palace. And right now we are the only platform where that audiobook is available to libraries. So just to pitch for content, I'm not on the sales team, but I do think this is something that we've really been able to provide that's unique. But shifting gears a little bit, Brian, how are you promoting Palace to your patrons? And do you have any creative ways that you've been engaging with your communities?
Yeah, I would say for the most part, the way we advertise is pretty basic. It's in a lot of our branding, a lot of our promotional materials, like our newsletter, our flyers. A lot of times, whenever we have like a closing sign, we'll add to it, we might be closed, but our digital library is always open. And that's always a great thing to have for people. I think lately, though, a big thing for us has been, we subscribe to a couple other digital resources, one of which is Hoopla, and we have been really promoting Palace kind of over Hoopla lately, just because so many people have been either complaining about Hoopla or having problems with it, and just throwing out there, we have this great resource that's, basically free to everyone, where you can probably find what you're looking for better than you can on Hoopla. Like, I get a lot of people that come up and say, you know, I can't find X on Hoopla, and when I recommend Palace, they're generally more successful in finding what they want. And I mean, despite not really having like that many creative ways in which we promote Palace, just looking at the numbers, we're continuing to gain more new users, more checkouts. So I think, you know, we've been headed in the right direction.
And Brian won't say this, but I know Clinton and Henry Carter Cole Library are some of our most active libraries in Connecticut. And despite being a small coastal library, they continue to see their usage grow, and we've loved being able to partner with them. Lisa, I'm going to kick it over to you, and you and Melanie can jump in too. I know Angela teased earlier, but we do have some creative marketing.
We do, and it really kind of fell in our laps, and it was just a crime of opportunity, so to speak. We have a wonderful team in our state library who have been sharing data from us, and much like Brian, Melanie, and I, both of our communities have Hoopla as well, but we have a different challenge, which is for us, it was our first product that we really offered, and so people are really used to it, and you kind of don't. You're trying to pry it out of their little cold hands. And even though it's not, as Brian said, necessarily the best product, it is what they are used to. And for us, it has become cost prohibitive. It was on track to absolutely destroy our budget. So we had to make some changes. Part of it was setting a daily cap, but another part was really investing a lot more resources in things like the Palace Project and really trying to promote those. So we have pushed it. And I know because I talked to Melanie's director a lot. We're directors in Georgia, small little circle. And we've compared notes on how do we get this down? How do we control our costs? And then when Palace came around, it's like, oh, this is a great model for us to look at. So our state library is sending out all these reports to the directors list. So we're tracking who's got the most usage. Well, Middle Georgia and Hall County, because we have such a strain on our resources from Hoopla, are like #1 and #2 every month. So Jennifer, the lovely director at Middle Georgia, threw down a little joking challenge, which is, we're coming for you, Hall County. And we're like, okay, let's do this. So it ended up becoming a social media battle between our libraries and who could come out on top in terms of their Palace usage. And we use that as a marketing tool.
And it wasn't just a case of, you know, marketing tool back and forth. Our marketing coordinators actually met at a conference and filmed a promotional together that was like, you know, a Western standoff showdown. And then it's like, wait, why are we fighting? You know, we should be promoting this together. And so we've gotten a lot of mileage out of that for social media. It's, you know, we mentioned Palace in our monthly newsletter that goes out. It gets promoted on our social media. When we did this last batch of statewide ordering for Palace, because so many of the titles that were ordered are ones that we've had hold list for on Overdrive. I went in and pulled the title list, and I pulled the holds patrons from Overdrive and sent a sort of a generic email, we'll say, blind copied to say, hey, a title or titles you have requested on Overdrive is currently available on the Palace Project. With, you know, you're on a list of 1,000 some people, but on here there's nobody waiting. So I think that's helped us kind of convince people to, they may still do Overdrive, but they're checking out Palace Project too.
Thanks, Melanie. And I know that some of our other library systems have kind of taken that approach too. I can say that if you're looking for something exciting, definitely look for those Instagram videos from both Hall County and Middle Georgia, because they're really something to be seen. And they may even be tapping our partner Angela from Georgia Public Library Service for a potential crown. Although after that last video, it might need to be two. I'm so thankful for both of your marketing teams, because they've been fantastic to watch and we've learned a lot. Lisa, can you speak a little bit more to how, I guess, the general way in which you're marketing or positioning Palace in your community?
I think we've done all of the things that everyone else has done. We have literally started sticking bookmarks in every book that we can get people to take. We've done paid for social media ads. We go out, we have a very active outreach program, and that's one of the things that we always take on the road is equipment that we can demonstrate to them. We've really, I mean, our growth has been top notch. We've had the highest number of registration for more months than not, but really it has just been a lot of it word of mouth. And I'm a big believer in word of mouth marketing. I think that gets you further than anything else. I was at the circulation desk for an hour on Saturday, and I can't tell you how many times I had to answer questions about different things. And one of the top ones was our ebooks. And I will always promote Palace first because it gives you the same benefit of searching your other tools, but the flexibility of the different models for purchasing that we can buy, a lot more copies of a high demand title for less, even if they don't last as long. That's a game changer for us. I mean, that is an absolute, complete and total game changer.
Definitely. And I think you've all kind of touched on something that I'd kind of like to bring attention to. As Palace Partner Libraries, if you're currently partnered with us, we do have resources that can be sent to your library. We have bookmarks as well as QR cards that are kind of like mini rack cards available to our partner libraries completely free of charge. We do try to send those out at conferences or before conferences, but there are also a lot of self-serve resources on our resources page that can be printed, they can be remixed, digital resources that you can co-brand for your library. And we're starting to expand into some marketing-based newsletters with resources available to libraries. So constantly going in and revising what's available based on some of the feedback that we're getting from our libraries. I'll have some things coming up hopefully in the next 6 months or so that might be a little bit fun to share coming soon. So shifting gears a little bit, we've talked about marketing and promotion of a collection, but I think one of the really interesting things that we get asked a lot about are what are those challenges? So what are some of the challenges you faced when trying to roll out Palace or other e-reading apps to your community? And how have you tried to address those challenges? Brian.
I think that helping an older generation kind of navigate the app has just been a universal problem in really any library I've worked in with any sort of e-reader, digital resource kind of thing. I think there are a lot of people that are hesitant or just not confident in their ability to use those kinds of apps. But I think, having people at the library that are willing to take time to sit down with someone and kind of, work through something, do a little demonstration just to show them how these resources work can, really go a long way towards helping someone, get more comfortable with using the app or finding things on it. Besides that, I would just say, in a similar vein, I think there are situations that crop up where, someone comes into the library, they're looking for a specific thing, and you offer, oh, well, we have this as an ebook through Palace Project, and they kind of look at you like you have 5 heads because they've just never used one of those digital platforms before, and again, may feel uncomfortable or not confident in using it. And very similarly, it's one of those things where it's like you really just got to take the time to work through using the app with someone, just showing them that it's not that difficult. And in the long run, I think it really goes a long way.
I think for me, it has been what Brian said, trying to get people to try something new. But in our case, it's not just learning ebooks, it is moving from one platform to another. That there has been the most resistance to, well, this is what I know, this is what I'm used to, this is easy. I'm like, but this is so much better. Let us show you. But trying to get people to take that first step. Once they take that first step, they're in, they love it. But getting them to just try something new is sometimes challenging.
That is what happens with us too. Before we launched with Palace, I did like 5 different sessions of training with, I think I hit almost every staff member we have in our regional system on one of the trainings. And the thing I emphasized was the similarities between the Palace app and what our patrons were already used to, and what our staff were already used to, as far as how it would be easy to teach people to use it, how it would be easy to use. And to emphasize the fact that Palace is sort of, for us, it's an umbrella app because it pulls so many things underneath it. And a lot of people only want one app, maybe two at the most, that they have to go to for things. So when we can tell them that they can get pretty much everything we have except Hoopla under the Palace. And with Hoopla, we've had to cut back on our price points and things like that, just because, as Lisa mentioned, it almost, ran through our budget extensively one year. But we've been getting really positive feedback from the patrons on Palace. And we also consider it positive that we're not getting a lot of negative feedback. So, and most of that is just having to get used to a new app and changing.
Thanks, Melanie. So I'm going to throw you guys a curveball. I know I sent questions ahead of time, but we are zooming through these, and that is not necessarily a bad thing because we'll have plenty of time for questions at the end from the community. But I think might be helpful for some of the team members on the call. And, we've heard from a lot of different community members today about what their content needs are and what areas that we are already helping you with. But, some of you work very actively with building collections. So if I may ask, what is your biggest need from your ebook vendors like Palace Project or others when it comes to creating content or the platforms that go along with them? How can we help?
Well, I guess this is just a jump in and answer.
It is.
For us, it's very helpful to know that we can email you with a title that a patron may request that's an Audible only. Does it guarantee that it'll be something that Amazon is willing to negotiate on? But to know that y'all are willing to go to bat and, put that in process to at least attempt to get it when we know otherwise it's a no-go at all. That's been very helpful. The fact that your support line, the email, is very proactive, very quick responsive, whether it's staff or patrons that are emailing. And you're very clear as to, when somebody sends something in, okay, this is great, but we need to know what platform you're on. We may forget to put that it's an Android something or an iPhone and what version it is. You know what you're doing, and what the common mistakes are. And so, we'll try to run through those ahead of time. But, to me, it's just been a really good experience overall with the resources that are available. As Lisa mentioned, that you do have more price points. So if I go in and I notice that I've only got maybe 5 people that are interested in a title, and the buying point for that is $150, but it's going to be a 26 checkout limit anyway or something. It's better for me to go in and say, hey, I'm going to pay the $40 to get the 5 checkouts and try to go through those, notify me requests before spending 150 on something that won't last very long either.
And I just want to reiterate again how important it is for me for us to see some of those different, like the perpetual use. I don't know if every state has impact fees, but we in Georgia do, which is a fee that a developer pays when they're bringing new homes into the community. But those fees in Georgia are very specific on what they can be spent on, and any sort of material, it has to have a 20-year lifespan. So most ebooks don't qualify. We get a nice chunk of impact fees for our collection every year, but our fastest growing part is ebooks, and very few of those can be straight up purchased. Allowing us to have some titles, especially audiobooks that we can just purchase, has made a huge difference in the amount of downloadable audiobooks that we can make available for our community. So just having that out there, again, that's for us, that is a game changer. That is the number one thing that our patrons are wanting. And that's a real important avenue that has let us fund it in a way we did not think we would ever be able to.
Brian, is there anything that you would wish of your ebook vendors that you work with? Well, I know that you really rely on the state library for that collection, but if you were to start purchasing broadly, is there anything that we could offer in terms of content or in terms of what the platform could do that would make your life just a little bit easier?
I mean, from my limited bias perspective, I would say that, really what we're getting right now seems to be really good. Everyone has been super responsive in getting back to us and about adding things to the collection. So I really, don't have much to say on that, other than it's just seems like it's been a really great experience.
Thanks. So we'll close it out with one last question. And I know you just talked to me and we jumped around. But I think it's good to end on a positive note to say, what are your hopes? So Brian, what is your hope for the future of the Palace app and or your statewide shared collection?
I mean, kind of to reiterate what I said already, I guess, is just that I think just, keeping up with, how good the quality has been. I hope that, we continue to have like just a good relationship, clear communication, and going forward, it just continues to grow and keep at that same sort of level.
For me, for Lisa, I think just continuing to explore different models and new partnerships with people we like Amazon and Audible that we've not been able to work for, just continuing to diversify what can be made available. That would be the top of our wish list, to have that just continue to grow.
I agree with that. The getting more of the titles that are restricted from libraries, and getting them at a reasonable cost has been very beneficial to us. And, just seeing things expand and, potentially, I know you're getting new titles all the time, but potentially there may be a way to go back on some popular series that maybe never had audios done for them. They started with like book 15 and never went back. It would be great if, could go back to the beginning.
That's actually something that I don't know that we've ever considered, but that would be working with the publishers. It is interesting. Do you find that that is a major gap in your collections? I know series are hard.
There's been a couple of authors over the years, and I'd have to dig through my notes to get them specifically, where we've got somebody that wants to listen to them on audio because they physically can no longer read them, and they're not even at this point able to get them through like the National Library for the Blind and physically challenged. They think of like the Spencer for Hire books or something. I couldn't even tell you how many dozens of those books there are, but sometimes you would look at an author's website and it would be like, oh, well, we've got book 1 in audio and book 5 in audio and book 7 through 20. But we didn't do the others in audio. And oh, by the way, 2 of those that are in 7 through 20, they're Audible only. So you have to get them from Amazon, and it's like they're all over the place with how they're doing their audiobooks. So it would be nice to be able to get them in one location.
And I think you just touched on a really interesting point with regards to rights that we don't always know. And I think the team of us, and going back to Dungeon Crawler Carl, have learned a lot about how different formats have different rights holders. So for this particular book, it was independently published as an ebook, and perhaps a print book before it was basically acquired by Penguin Random House Imprint. So the print rights are with Penguin Random House. The ebook rights are still with the author, and they were released as Audible exclusive audiobooks. So one series of titles 3 different rights holders, and we're still trying to figure out the best way of dealing with scenarios like this so that we can provide opportunities for libraries to source that content in all formats. Because you are getting those requests for the ebooks and the audiobooks alongside the print books that are readily available. So definitely something that's been a unique challenge that I think the team and I can definitely learn from and continue to think about as we are pursuing content. So with that, I'm going to turn things over for audience questions. So if you have any questions about challenges or marketing promotion for any of our panelists, you can put them at the Q&A or drop them in the chat.
All right, so I wanted to share that we had a question about the Palace Development Roadmap in the chat. So I went ahead and I pasted a link in there so people can check in to see where we are in the process, a little bit more about what David had talked about in our last session. So you can check in there to see what's in development now, what's been recently finished, and what is coming up next. And then for BiblioCommons, we do have discussions going on with them. Basically, we've started the conversation, but we haven't really worked on that integration yet. And I'm not sure, Michael Atwood, if you wanted to say anything else. Right now, I think we're really at the beginning of the discussion, but we are very interested in integrating, and we've heard a lot of feedback from libraries that work with BiblioCommons. And again, discovery is one of our, biggest goals. We want to be able to, allow for discovery in as many places as possible so people can access their content in as many places as possible. And Michael, I didn't know if you had anything else to add.
No, that's perfect. We're speaking with them. We want to integrate with them. They want to integrate with Palace. And now it's just doing the technical work to make it happen. So we are working together.
All right, thank you.
And I
All
think this
right.
is a good pitch for both Michael and James that have been on this call to say that, we continue to want to work with anyone that's willing to work with us. And sometimes that means technical development on our end, on the other vendor's end, and getting things on people's roadmaps takes a little bit of time. But we're very much open to working with other discovery companies. Some have their own processes, so you do have some control there. I know Triple I, we already have an open feature request that you can upvote in their system that is unfortunately closed, and I can't remember what it's called. But if you are a Polaris user and would like to see Palace integrate into Polaris, you can log into their feature request system and upvote.
I was looking through the things, and I don't know if Philip McNulty is still in here. He was asking about funding from multiple levels. We get funding from the state to purchase materials for Palace. Like at the end of the budget year, they had some extra money and they split it up between the library systems and let us go in and have a free-for-all on buying. And then also at our, our consortium level, we do a budget, and then you've got funding there that comes from state or local or gift funding where people have set up bequests and things. And so, we can purchase things with that. We just have to say when we turn in the invoice that this is coming out of local fund so-and-so to pay for it, and just make sure that the funding specifies that it doesn't have to be for print materials only or physical materials only.
Thank you, Melanie. Yeah, hopefully that answered your question. Philip, please let us know if you'd like any more details. All right, thank you. And are there any other questions? Check the Q&A, check the chat. All right, well, I think that might be it for this one. Thank you to all of our panelists. Thank you to Jill for moderating, and thank you, Michael, for chiming in, and Carissa for answering questions. We appreciate all of you so much. All right. And for those of you who've been with us all day, we appreciate you too. I know this is, it's been a long day, but we're so happy and excited if you've joined us. And for those who can only pop in and out, we appreciate you too. Again, we're recording everything. We'll send out the slides and the recording afterwards. And we've got one more presentation coming up, and that is at 4:30 Eastern. So we'll take a little bit of a break here, and then we'll be back to talk about academic libraries using Pallas.
Sarah, before we jump over, would you mind sharing our community-generated question? I know that this has come up in the stakeholder meeting, and Michael alluded to things in the past, but we thought it might be possible to ask our community members that are on here. This that was posed to us, I think, originally by California and Georgia. So if you're a public or an academic library, have you used Pallas or other digital services to support your homeschool community? And if so, what did you do?
Thank you for the reminder, Jill. Yeah, please feel free to scan the QR code or go to slido.com and enter the poll number there to add your feedback. This is a word cloud, so it'll be kind of a free text poll like our last one on content. And we'll go ahead and share those results out here in a few minutes. Thanks all.